Well, hello crafty friends, it's Eileen here. Yes, I'm back. Before I start my demonstration, can I just say a huge thank you to all of you that have taken the time to message me, email me, write some comments, some fantastic comments on some of the work that you've seen that I've put onto Instagram and Facebook. It's so uplifting to read some of these comments, and I can't thank you enough. You are so kind, and it's good to be back. Now, I've had some time off and to do some craft work for myself, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And now I'm relaxed, I'm refreshed, and I'm going to do a few demonstrations now over the next couple of weeks to showcase and feature some new releases from Visible Image, from Sweet Poppy Stencils, and of course from Lavinia Stamps. The first one that I'm doing features this beautiful atomic flower along with the Spring Awakening scribbled flower in the middle of this from the Spring Awakening set from Visible Image. It's a very quick card to do, thoroughly enjoyed it, so let's get cracking. Right, I have a piece of cardstock. Now this is a new cardstock to me, and I haven't investigated all the properties yet. When I get new cardstock or cardstock that I've never used before, and I don't know how it will work, I use loads of different mediums on it, and like normal acrylic paints, watercolour paints, archival inks, distress inks, oxide inks, any stuff that I can throw at it, and I'll make notes to see how the paper cards coped with whatever media I was using at the time. Now this one is a heavyweight. I've got a mark on it already. I think it's my nail varnish has scratched it. Turn it over. This is a heavyweight, over 300 GSM. I'm not sure of the exact weight. Sorry about that. From Paper Mill Direct. Very heavy cardstock. Very porous as well. Now, I haven't had time to play with this and to do a lot of experimentation, but I have noticed that it does like my normal distress inks, the oxide inks, and it also loves archival inks, and that's what I'm using today. So I've cut a card blank, 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres in this heavyweight cardstock. And I've got a bit of copy paper and my stamp mat underneath. And I'm using the Atomic Flower from Visible Image, the Atomic Flower Stencil. It is a bit grubby because it's well loved and it's well used, and I've cut the frame away. Nothing new there then. There was a border frame on the outside of this stencil. I've cut it away because I wanted to use it a lot on the gel press. And I've got another one that I use for normal stenciling. But in this instance, I just didn't want the frame, so I'm using this one. Popping it down. So it's about 2/3 covering my cardstock on the left-hand side. Move that around just a smidge. Like so. Okay. So that, I think, is where I had the original card. And I'm using a bit of Sweet Poppy stencil tape to hold it down onto my copy paper. Gives it a little bit of a grip. Archival ink rose madder. And a small stencil brush. Now I'm going to try and keep in the lines of the stencil. And I'm using a fairly old ink pad, so it's not very juicy, and I'm using a very light wrist action, no pressure on the head of the brush, so it's just skimming over the surface. This is quite smooth, this cardstock, and I just want a very light covering of ink. Don't want it to be too dark, too heavy. It will overpower the stamps. And if you go outside of the petal configuration, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. It will just give you a nice bit of shadow outside of the petal, and it will look as if it's meant to be. Try and stay inside of each petal if you can, but don't fret if you don't. Now you see me re-inking a lot. That's mainly because this ink pad is very dry, but I'm not putting any pressure on the head of the brush so that it's just skimming over the surface of the card. So it's quite a pale look that I'm after. And there it is. Okay, so just wash the stencil or wipe it over with a damp cloth. Now I want to add some more texture to this, and so I'm looking now to take off some more of the ink. And this is one thing I've noticed in this, with this cardstock. You cannot use my favourite tool with this. You cannot use the sand eraser, the mono sand eraser that I use a lot with the Visible Image Multifarious cardstock. That cardstock from Lavinia Stamps really takes this rubber and the punishment that I give it without making holes in the card. But this one, oh, it did show off. It didn't like it at all, and I got a hole fairly swiftly when I tried using this. So I had to find some other way of removing any stray ink or adding texture, as in this case that I want to do now, a distress look. So I'm using a humble, although it looks a bit flash because it's patterned, emery board, and it worked very well. So very lightly, I'm just removing some of the ink to give me that distressed shaded look. And I'll come up to in a moment and put it on a setting so that you can see a closer look to it, to what I'm doing. So very lightly, you can see all the bits where it's removing the ink, but at the same time, it isn't making holes in the card. I'll be doing this and using this more. I really love this look. So I'm just getting a brush. It's just a do-it-yourself brush from a well-known do-it-yourself store. Just gently to remove all the bits. And then just so that you can see what I've done. Can you see now the texture that that's given me? It just adds a little bit more interest. And there's no holes there. Of course, it's ruffled the surface. And it will soak up the ink more, because now I've made the cardstock even more porous because I've broken the fibres. But it's well worth it. Now, next, I'm going to stamp the first image, and this is the main image, and it's from a new set from Visible Image to pre-order called Spring Awakening. First Fine Clair Nocturne. And this is a ink pad from last year, but I have re-inked it. I re-inked it last night. Don't really need to ink up this bottom bit, just the stem and the top of the flower. So it's well inked there. And then popping it over, I would like the stem to be straight, going off the side, on the left-hand side, off of the card, like so. I think that's about it. And letting the ink soak into the cardstock. Stand up, give it some welly. And up. And that looks lovely. Okay, got a little bit of black ink there. I don't mind about that. I can get rid of that with a white ink pen. My eye is drawn to it, so a little bit of white ink pen You'll never know it was there. Okay. Next, I'm going to do a bit of background texture. Now this, love this. Love the texture of this. Love the text message on this. But I don't want to read it all. I'm just using it in the background for texture. But the font is gorgeous. And this is from another visible image set you can get on pre-order. And it's from the Sketched Tulips set. So it's a background text stamp. And I'm using the Archival Rose Madder again. Tone on tone for this card. Ink it up. Now this ink pad from Archival Inks is not new. It's an old pad. So I'm going to use it first generation, but I won't press too heavily because I really want the text in the background. But it isn't worth doing second generation. The ink pad is too dry for that. So down I come, just a little bit here. Just down a bit from the top, down, press, not too heavily. So I've got, you can see it, but it's still got that fade out look. And then inking up again. And then I put another one here again. I'm pressing, but again, no pressure on the stamp. Just down and up this time. Down and up. So it looks even more faded. Sorry about the dog. He must have seen a cat or another dog. It's my Daisy, I love her. And then I'm going to stamp again, just a tiny amount over here. But again, hardly any pressure. Oh, maybe a little bit more. There you go. Well, it doesn't matter. You can just about see that. It's given me enough for interest, but it isn't in your face. Okay, next. Back to Versifying Clair Nocturne and the main set of stamps. And these are all from Spring Awakening. And I've got some tiny little ink blobs. These are going to be so useful for other stuff as well. And I love these. So popping those down into the ink. And then just going to add a bit of interest up here. Don't rock your stamp. You want it to be nice and clean and not out of focus where you've moved it. And then turning it around so the ink blobs are in a different configuration. Over a bit, down. So that has sort of added interest in that area. And then, of course, because you need 3, I'm going to pop another one down over here. Pressing firmly, nice clean image. Good quality stamps, these. The final bit of stamping are the words. So I've got Feel Alive. So into the ink pad again, Versifying Clair Nocturne. Just underneath the ink pads there, ink blots. And then this one, using the first stamp as a guide, I'm going to pop this one directly underneath. Over a bit to the right, so it's not straight in line. And that looks good. Move all those out of the way. And I've got myself now a sparkle pen in gold. This is a Mitsubishi Uniball, Signio Uniball sparkle gold pen. All I'm doing now is to remove this, in fact. I still want to keep my card clean though, so I need to wipe my hands. Won't be a moment. Damp cloth, dry cloth. Okay. So all I'm doing now is to highlight the petals, not being too careful. And also you're going to find a few negative images that have come from where you've strayed outside the petals. Highlight those as well. Why not? You can never have too much gold. That's what I reckon. Okay, so that's a negative image, but that's fine. There's a positive. Any pink bits, put a bit of gold around them. Just brings it up a bit. Pops them. I don't think I've forgotten anything. There's another bit of a line there. I think that I've caught them all. Oh, no, there's another one there. Bring that up so you can see that properly. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Right. What's next? Just looking at my card. Ah, all it is now is the enamel accents. It's a sort of a dimensional enamel stuff. You can use pearl drops or whatever you like. But I just wanted to add a little bit of yellow because it's a sunshiny day. So this is Ranger's Enamel Accents. They do all different colours. Obviously, I have them all and I use them all. Right, popping them down. I'm a great fan of this enamel accent stuff to give a bit of dimension. Just getting it flowing. Bit of a waste, I know, but you've got no choice. And then I'm using the ink blot stamp as a guide. I'm just popping on a couple of these there. So down and up, vertical. Bring it up and then hopefully you'll get the tail and it will settle back and make a dome. Just one there, so that's 3 of those. And then I'm going to go down the stem, or rather, sorry, one of the petals of this scribbled flower. And I'm just going to try and do 5, very tiny. I'm not squeezing the bottle, I'm just letting gravity allow the enamel accents to come out. After the initial squeeze, it should sort of flow. Right, that's it. I'm not going to do any more. Chance my arm. So, I'm done. I enjoyed doing that. I'll be back soon with another card to show you. That's the one that I've just done. There's my one that I did earlier on. Oh, that's good for me. They look the same. I'll be back soon. It's been great to spend some time with you. Take care. Have a good weekend, and I'll be back in a few days, if not sooner. See what time I have. Bye for now.